Hi, folks. You are watching and listening to a very special edition of Open Bar. I'm Mike Morales here in Southern California. We have a very special guest. That gentleman out there is
Dave Martin.
Dave Martin, Chef Dave. I love it. Chef Dave Martin. And if you've heard of Chef Dave or you've seen him, you might be familiar with his brand new book, The Tequila Diet. I love this because this is, well, I mean, first of all, the photography and the recipes here are beautiful. You know what I loved about this, Chef, and I haven't tried any of these yet.
Yeah.
But whenever I read these recipes, I feel like I can actually do them myself. Was that on purpose? Was that?
Yes. I mean, I've been cooking for a long time and, consulting and, helping set up and get restaurants going. And, there are two different bases, right? There's a home cook, and then there's when I'm writing a cookbook for a restaurant. Not that there is a difference there. I mean, the restaurant cookbooks are in grams and things of that nature for more specificity, but I mean, I'm not going to write a home book necessarily like that. So one thing is the measurements, but then also having ingredients that are accessible. I mean, yes, the power of Amazon, we can kind of get anything anywhere. So that's something that's always important to me, is accessibility to things so that you can actually make it. So I love hearing that. And, some other people have kind of said that, and that's very important to me, to have a cookbook that you can you feel like you can open it and actually make something. There's nothing worse than looking at a cookbook and going, oh my God, like there's another Mexican cookbook on the market right now that is beautiful and awesome. But it's like, I'm a chef and I looked at some of the recipes and I'm like, this is like so complicated for the home cook. So it's a beautiful book, but this one hopefully is more approachable.
It is. I looked at, and I know that if I spent more time in the kitchen, if I had more time,
Yes.
I would probably be a pretty decent cook. I think there's like one dish that I know how to make, which is puerco pibil, which is in here. It's part of that, and it's much less complicated than the one that I'm following.
Okay, good.
Because I got to find banana leaves in a local mercado, or when I was living in Texas, it was actually an Asian place that I would get, the banana leaves. It's like, we got banana trees in San Antonio. We definitely have them all over Southern California. I can just pluck them from somewhere,
Yes.
So anyway, when I looked at your recipes, it's like, oh, I want to try these, and it's like, I'm not like that, because I'll look at the recipes and I go, like during the pandemic, everybody was making bread, and it was, Lisa Peach, our managing partner, was making some great sprouted bread with lentils, and it just looked really complicated and kind of a long process. And yet she got it to the point where it was like a weekly thing, and it turned out it was great. But I mean, it wasn't something that it didn't feel approachable.
It wasn't really calling to you or inspiring you to make it. You know what I mean? Like, not that bread's not great. Bread is a complete art in itself, but it's like, you need something that, is more of a touchstone. Like maybe you're going to be more excited to make chilaquiles than a loaf of sprouted bread.
Right.
Well,
especially if you're living like I was, prior to pandemic, we were living in San Antonio, and then now I'm back in Southern California. So
yeah,
as you can tell by the painting behind me, it's all about the Southwestern kind of flavor. Why? Here, I'm going to show this picture for those of you who are listening to us on the podcast. I'm showing a picture on the back of the book. It's this is El Bastón del Rey Tequila. And I want to know the story. You call it the Tequila Diet, the whole book.
Yeah.
And that means every recipe requires some sort of tequila in it. What inspired you to, first of all, why tequila? Why didn't you go like to whiskey or wine? A lot of chefs cook with wine. Why did you pick tequila? Why did you go that route?
Well, I mean, I'll just tell you the origin story, which, it actually came, in terms of what I drink as a chef and as just a regular consumer, I'm pretty much wine and tequila. I don't really drink any of their spirits. I don't really like cocktails. And part of that is, I'm not 25 and I don't want all the sugars and all the garbage. So, but I've been like that for a long time. So I like I like to drink clean when I drink, excuse me. So, I'd actually come back from Italy and I'd had a great time. I was there like, week and a half and just, imbibing, enjoying great wines and just chowing and maybe not being as active as normal. I put on like 12 pounds and I'm not that big of a person. And I was like, oh man, I'm like, what am I going to do? So I was like, well, I'm going to just switch to my other go-to, which was tequila. And so for like 6 or 8 weeks, I did only tequila. I mean, I ate and went to the gym and stuff, but I did not, no wine. I really cut wine out of my diet and I lost the 12 pounds. And so I just started telling everyone that I was on the tequila diet. It was my own thought and inspiration. I know there's other people that have said it before, but it was just kind of my little thing. And I was pitching it and everyone would laugh and they're like, well, I'm joining. So it kind of started as a joke amongst my inner circle in New York. And then, from there, I got a call from a buddy in Sun Valley, Idaho, who's another chef. And he's like, hey, I've got a tequila group coming to town. They need someone to help with a charity dinner. He's like, Mexican, I know is one of your things. Could you come help? And I was like, sure. So I actually headed to Sun Valley and that's where I met John Miller of Bastogne Del Rey and, started drinking the tequilas and we put together this really nice charity event. We did a couple there. But, I really loved his product. It's, very delicious. I mean, even the silver for me, which I'm not normally a silver guy, more reposado is kind of where I land, just on the rocks with a piece of orange. That's really my go-to. So I was tasting everything and I was like, wow, this is a great brand and product. Why don't I just pitched him the book in that first meeting. And he was like, wow, that sounds great. And so kind of it started from there. I told him the whole story. We laughed. But he's like, wow, that's a really interesting concept. And then from there, as we started to put together the book, I went down to Mexico with him and, learned more about the brand and his story and saw him up in Pacific Northwest where he lives. So, I had a bunch of different meetings, started working on the book. And as the book kind of evolved, part of what I wanted to do was infuse the tequila, as you talked about, into the recipes. So it's in about 95 or 97%. There's only like 5 or 6 that don't necessarily have it. But I chose to use the spirit. One, it is my favorite in that category, not wine related. But I'm French trained as a chef and in all of my cooking, and I'm very global. Like, I've opened Indian restaurants, Georgian, as in, Eastern Bloc, Malaysian, so I'm very versed in global cuisine. So what we do in other cuisines, like in French, it's all about sherry, deglazing with sherry and finishing and things like that. And when you make lobster biscuits, sherry and brandy. So the use of spirits is very common. And so I thought, oh my gosh, how cool. Well, and then same like Italy, Marsala, you have all these fortified wines that we utilize that really just bring a richness. I mean, if you have a great palate, you're going to taste them. If you have no palate, you're not going to get it. But what I thought would be how great to use something indigenous to Mexico in that same fashion. And that's when I began the infusion of tequila and the different varietals based on what I'm doing. For example, in the ceviche, there's a little silver that's tucked in there,
right.
Very nice and light, works wonderful with the pineapple and the Fresnos and things like that. And then as we get into some of the braised meats, I'm using, whether it might be a reposado, it might be an añejo that I use to deglaze the pan, before I finish the braising process. So it became very natural and like we would use other products in other countries. So I just thought it was logical and fun. And I thought that was kind of a cool story, to bring to the book.
Yeah, well, it's all I can say is it's probably one of the more approachable, people try to complicate Mexican cuisine.
Yes.
I lived for 18 years in New Mexico. And so, and so that, yeah. And every city, that you live in, it has a different style of cuisine. Santa Fe has a wonderful history of the what's the term I'm looking for? The pseudo Tex-Mex, and real Tex-Mex is more like down south, Las Cruces and El Paso. where
Yes.
Tex-Mex is different from, something simple like sopapillas.
Yes.
In Albuquerque, they're puffed up, and in El Paso, they're flat. They're not puffed up. They're flat, and they've got sugar and they're cinnamon, and it's
Mhm.
completely different. You
Right.
know, uh, so the variety that existed in that style of cuisine, I'm used to. But when I looked at this, it's like this is more. It's so approachable. So all of these recipes, folks, when you look at them and you read them and you go, wow, I want to try this. This is just, and then you got little fun facts on some of these.
Yes.
You have, do you have a favorite? Do you have a favorite of these? I mean, they're all probably favorites to you, but
I have several, and one thing I want to say about that is, food is regional. Okay, so I'm someone, also part of the reason I went with tequila and the concept for the book is I grew up in Southern California, and I've been going to Mexico since I was 16, 17 years old. So it's an area that I know pretty well. I've been all over from, Manzanilla to Tulum, both sides of Mexico, so many different
wow.
places. And it's different in every area, like Puebla, one of the origins of mole, they have the 7 different moles that you're not going to see everywhere. Some are more seed driven, they don't all have chocolate in them.
Right.
There's a green mole, yellow mole, there's this whole rainbow of different moles, which that leads me to one of my favorite recipes is definitely the mole. It's something that I've curated for the last 10 or 15 years. And going to different regions and talking to chefs and finding out their secret ingredient or their grandmother's secret ingredient. I had a chef in Cancun, a chef in Puerto Vallarta that I talked to. So it's kind of an amalgamation of all of those influences and learning and exploration. That kind of led me to, that is one of my favorite sauces. I've been doing an enchilada sauce for many more years, but mole is kind of like a graduated version of that. It's really one of the more complex recipes in the book, but it's really complex more in the totality of ingredients, not necessarily method, but in terms of, the list of ingredients that are, required to get that end result. But yeah, I think you make a very important point that, food is very regional, like Texas, right? There's all these different parts of Texas, but the food, whether it's, more American driven or Mexican driven, each region is different in flavors or how they may present something, and same thing in New Mexico. I love Santa Fe and Albuquerque, but they're, they both got hatch chilies, but one is using them in a different way. So, it's very interesting, but that's, yeah, definitely. The mole is a great one. The enchilada sauce. I love sauces. Like that's one of my strengths. So I really feel that there's a lot of time and a lot of passion. There's put into all of the recipes, but the sauces are really where I shine. And, talking about approachability, another point that I want to make specifically with the cocktails that are in the book, of course, it's a tequila book. We're going to have cocktails.
Right.
But this isn't for mixologists, okay? Like I don't have, blood from a vampire bat and elderberry, like I don't have like 60 ingredients. I wanted the cocktails to be really executable at home.
Yeah.
And they're riffs on classics, like the Paloma. It's an upgraded Paloma with smoked chili bitters. And I have a little, grapefruit hard seltzer to come in there, working also with cocktail trends. And, I have the Tijuana tea that has tangerine tea in the background. And so, they're thoughtful, but not hyper complicated. Again, some of the things like the mole, that's where that exists, a little more method and technique, but the cocktails are approachable.
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to say too, because I'm not much of a cocktail guy. I mean, we've been, part of most of what we do is the sipping off the cup, where we do a lot of reviews. We've been doing it for 23 years. I mean, we invented, drinking online. We were doing it when there was only so so a lot, and considering that during the pandemic, there was a lot of increase in people were drinking more, obviously, but they were making cocktails at home too. So the idea that the cocktails are also approachable, I mean, the book kind of came out right during during that time. And
Yeah.
it's still, you know, that trend is still continuing. People are still drinking it.
Yes.
They're still
Yeah.
making their cocktails. They're still, you know, learning to cook besides making bread, right? Because everybody was
Yes.
making bread during the pandemic.
Yeah.
And I was telling the chef, I said, you know, I don't, bread just doesn't turn me on, but cooking would have worked had I had more time. The funny thing was, you know, a lot of things exploded during the pandemic, and one of those was us as far as Tequila Aficionado.
Right.
None of it ever stopped. I mean,
Right.
we actually increased the amount of tastings that we did because people were sending us more. I mean, you know, everything came to a screeching halt, and a lot of stuff didn't because it was already in the pipeline. You know,
Yeah.
tequilas were already in the pipeline. You know, things that were paperwork was already going, and they
Yeah.
couldn't stop that train. I mean, it had to roll out whether it was a good time or a bad time. And how the response has been for you and the book is,
You
I'm
know,
interested to find out what other people are saying about it.
yeah, it's
You.
been good. You know, we kind of launched, you know, right at Cinco de Mayo this year. Like, I mean, I wasn't able to catch that wave just due to timing and production and such, because it is a self-published book. So it was a lot of time and effort, and we put a lot of money into it. You know, people, that whole process, that's a whole separate nightmare. It's just very difficult. And, you know,
Yes.
even to put a book like this together, you know, the margins that you need to charge for it because of Amazon and the big guys, you
Yeah.
know, that's why the book is the price that it is. But we put the ebook much more affordable because it's different margins. But in the printed version, it's like they just kill you. But you know, it's going good. You know, it's kind of like a slow burn. The PR team, you know, came on board as well. So we've been I just did like 10 or 15 podcasts. I was on WGN last week. So we're kind of just getting everything in motion. And I kind of see it more as a ramp up toward holiday, because this is a great stocking stuffer gift.
This is there's dishes for the holiday too. I mean, you know,
Yeah.
instead of your, you know, how about a turkey enchilada or something? You know,
Exactly.
um,
So,
now,
you know, go ahead. Sorry.
how the tequila itself, what caused you to use the blanco in that? And I'll give you, I want to hear your response to that, because
Uh-huh.
I fell in love with this blanco because
Yes.
it's so unique and different.
Yes. Yes. It's, as I have said to my friends and such that have tasted, I'm like, you know, to me, here's the deal. When I describe tequilas, wines, I use my own terminology. I don't like use the whatever, like it's how I want to describe it. So
Right.
that's one of the first things I'm going to say. Like, I talk about how I just organically feel about it. So whites typically for me, because I just drink them straight, you know, I know we're supposed to drink them like, you know, room temp, like, but I can't, too much in college. But when I'm going to drink it, the white to me is normally a hot, I call it a hot flavor, you
Right.
know, a white tequila, that's what I think of, you know, not just the inexpensive ones, some of the nicer ones too, they have a heat to them that I don't enjoy. You know, it's like drinking a hot spirit. So this one is just so more balanced, and just, it is not a hot white. And so that's why, you know, it works nicely in certain recipes like the ceviche, as I mentioned, where you've got,
Right.
you know, the notes of pineapple, and it works great with the fresh seafood. It's not the dominant, you know, like if you used other white tequilas in that application, it's not going to have the smoothness and the balance that this brand's, you know, white definitely, or Blanco affords. So it's, as you notice, the same things. Yes.
Yeah. The process is a little bit different too.
Yes.
It's when I was described to me the process of how this particular blanco is produced, it sounded to me more of a kind of like a raicilla, and that process is a whole different thing. And it was revealed to me that was the person who had brought this brand to the distillery had a experience in making raicilla, which is again a different animal.
Yeah.
A different plant. It is made in Jalisco. It does have its own denomination of origin, but the plant is different. The process is different. But they brought it. The way they process this tequila is similar to that, and so it brought about a different flavor profile that you don't often get. I like, since we've done this for like 23 years, you know, I remember old school tequilas tasting like this to begin with. Some people say it's gamey, you know, kind of like game meat, you know, like beef versus buffalo. It's very similar to that. So when we tasted it and we did the review, it's like, wow, this is really different. And I had to find out more about the process because we weren't getting, there wasn't a whole lot of information out there.
Yeah.
And so I understand where you're coming from, where, you know, tequila tasting now has become kind of a lost art because it's become so industrialized that the mainstream stuff out there, I mean, you could have chosen a mainstream tequila and it would have fit on everything you were doing because it's not hot. The Reposado, you know, a little bit different. The Añejo's kind of similar, the same, you know, and you wouldn't have had a problem, but you didn't do that. You know, you went with a tequila that was very much old school. And if you look at the labeling on this, and we showed it on the review, if you haven't seen the review, folks, you can check it out on our YouTube channel at tequilaaficionado.com. It's got that foil, the old school foil, and it's an older style bottle. It's more of a common bottle. But I remember those bottles from the old school days, like this long and things like that. And I thought, you know, this is that Blanco particularly had a lot more layers to work with. And so that's what intrigued me, why I wanted to find out from you why you chose. I mean, you could have picked anybody's tequila. Were you like checking out other tequilas, trying to figure out who
I knew, you know, I'd done some events with Patron in the past and things like that. And it could have probably been, you know, a bigger book and and things like that, and a lot more, whatever. But, you know, kind of, I'm a little bit more, you know, smaller brands, you know, things that are on up and coming, you know, because I'm a small brand, right? I'm a micro brand. I'm not this big, whatever chef. I'm just like this, whatever. And
well, I don't know. You've been on, you know, you've been on television. You know?
Yeah. I mean, I've done a lot, you know, but, you know, I kind of just, so that's something that was important to me. It was something that, you know, the story was a little bit more on the level with me, and, you know, they're an up and coming brand, and they've, you know, got a really great product. And I have a great relationship with John. And so it just seemed more like a natural fit than me, like just farming it out to big companies to get like a big paycheck to do something. It just was more real and more kind of true to who I am. And so that's kind of how our relationship and partnership, you know, became what we have today in the book.
Have you experimented with the other Mexican spirits out there? I mean, are you a big mezcal person, or
you know,
had raicilla or sotol?
Yes. I've had those. Mezcal, I can't. You know, and I have a chef buddy that he took me out one night in the city when I was still in New York. I'm in San Diego, like you now too, thankfully. But you know, he took me out, and I was like, okay. He knows I don't like mezcal, but I'm like, let's do it. And so, you know, I knew he knew the route, and we tried a bunch of things, and I can still taste it. For me, it's just I'm always about nuance and flavors, and my palate is extremely sophisticated, and it's too much for me. It is too powerful. Trying the simple ones and even the more complex ones, you know, based on price point or, you know, brands, it just didn't resonate with me. And I know people love it. It's such a huge trend. I just don't love it. The raicillas, I've tried those, and I've tried some of the home ones. I met a guy, a chef in Puerto Vallarta, that made his own, and tried that. And again, for me, just the flavor is too powerful and too dominant. I can't, you know, it's kind of like, you know, I don't like a Cabernet Sauvignon. I don't care where it's from. And I don't like an oaky California Chardonnay. So whether it's a wine or spirit, when the flavor becomes too dominant for me, I think it kind of takes me out of the equation.
Okay. Well, that makes sense.
Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yeah. You know, you've got your own style, and you got to find what works for you.
Yes.
I know people that just can't, the same way. They can't, you know, they can't stomach it. You know, they can't get past it.
Yeah.
Some of them really trash stuff that they don't know anything about. You know, that's not to say that there aren't great mezcals or raicillas. It's just not for you. And
exactly, they're amazing.
Yeah,
they're amazing, and I know people love them, and I have a respect for them. It's just not something, you know, and I've tried them. I just, you know, you know, listen, there's something for everyone, you know what I'm saying, in that world. Like, so whatever works for you, you know, the brand, the product, whatever story and stuff works for you, you know, it's like to each their own. Like, that's why, you know, we still have those freedoms left that, you know, you can drink the tequila brand that you like.
Right.
If you don't like Reposado, that's okay. You can have the Añejo, you know, if
Yeah.
you're in that Scotch and whiskey category, you like that richer or more aged profile, go for it. You know, like that's how I've always been with people. Like when, say, I'm doing wine events and wine dinners, and, you know, people, you know, want to be told, and I'm like, I don't want to tell you what to drink. This is what I'm recommending, but hey, if you love Pinot Noir and you want to drink that with the fish, then that works too. So I've always been very open to, like, I don't like to, I'm very much a rule follower, but I don't want to tell people what they're supposed to eat or drink with what, because it's open to personal interpretation. So, you know, I am not an ogre. It's like, okay, yeah, I don't really like Sauvignon Blanc with this course. Okay, cool. We have this, you can have that. Like, I'm definitely not that kind of a chef or host in any fashion. So
So we're not gonna have you trash you know, somebody else's style, you know, on TV or anything.
not at all. It's like, great, that's your
No,
thing.
but you know, somehow that's why I love the book, and I kind of like where you're coming from, because we're similar. I mean, that's what Tequila Aficionado has always been about. We're always about, you know, we try everything. Just
Yes.
because it comes from a celebrity, it's being endorsed, doesn't mean that it's that bad. We know some great celebrity brands that are really honest tequilas, but nobody talks about them, because, you know, the people that have all the money are the ones that are making the big splash, and they get all the publicity and all that. And we've never been about that. You know, it's always been about, you know, it's always been about stuff like this, you know, startups and people with a genuine love for what they're doing, and a certain style, you know.
Yeah.
You say you've worked with different kinds of cuisine.
Mhm.
What I was going to say, which cuisine do you do you enjoy, and which ones don't you enjoy? I mean, you have to be well versed in all of them, but is there ones that are more difficult to work with than others? Like, you're French trained, so
Yeah,
I'd imagine that one's okay, but you know,
love French. You know, it's the backbone of all cooking, pretty
right,
much. So, but you know, I really love, you know, I'm a flavor person, so I love flavor. So, you know, sweet, salty, you know, tangy, umami, like I love all that stuff. So for me, you know, definitely my favorites, I love Asian. I mean, that's, you know, I love Asian. Indian is so amazing. I don't get to make it that often because everyone always think of it based on the regional part of India. You know, it can be very heavy, you know, with the curries and things of that nature. So I don't get to make it, although I'd love to. You know, of course, Mexican, I grew up with that, Southern California.
right.
Italian, I mean, I can't get enough. I mean, I pretty much love every country. I will say Eastern European is probably my least favorite. So like, you know, I went to Georgia, I went to you know, I went to Tbilisi and spent time with people on the ground and saw the high end and low end of the cuisine. And, you know, to me, it is not, you know, it's based on ingredients and what you have there, but it's not as exciting in terms of flavors and such. You know, it's a lot of the same things, you know, potatoes, beets, walnuts, pomegranate, like, and not that it's bad, but I'm just saying that's just something I don't love, kind of like that region. It's just, it doesn't call to me. I don't like being cold and everyone being grouchy. So, you know, I like the warmer climates where people are happy. So,
Cold and grouchy.
yeah, I mean, and oh gosh, there was so much cigarette smoking, I wanted to shoot myself. So, yeah, I mean, there was a guy smoking a cigarette on the treadmill in the gym at the hotel.
Oh, well, I've seen that before. I've actually seen a guy in my gym years ago. Yeah, he was he was doing low roll pulleys in it with a cigarette hanging out of his mouth.
Yeah, so that
You're
was
my, you know, and it's like that's my hero right there. You know, anybody who can smoke and still, you know, pump iron.
crazy.
That's
But no,
crazy.
so I am really an equal opportunity. I love so many different regions and so many different cuisines, and I love having that ability to adapt and learn and, you know, really make it true to the origin. That's really something that's important to me, and something that, you know, whether it's this book or recipe books that I write for restaurants, is I really am big on that. Like, you know, you're not going to see these recipes and it's like, oh, add sriracha for heat. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's not Mexican. So, you know, part of this is my homage to the people and the culture of Mexico, which is one of my favorite parts. So, you know, the food, the stories, the grandmas, like, I love everything about it so much that, you know, it's very special to me in that way.
So it really, as you said, it really resonates with you on a very personal level.
Yes.
And I can tell that because just the care of the recipes, and then in the photography. Tell me who put the pictures together, because this is not your Instagram photography foodie stuff.
Yeah.
This is
No.
art. I look at this as like, these are really artful. You know, that they're gorgeous. Even the drinks recipes. You know, that you've got. You know, I don't know if you folks can see that on my screen here, but you know, these pictures here, they're beautiful. I mean,
Yeah,
it's like that's not the stuff that you're scrolling through Instagram, you know, looking at.
I thank you for that. I actually worked with two photographers. I worked with one from New York that my brand agency that I do projects with brought to the table, but I actually created all the storylines for all of the photography, and made all the food and did all the food styling. So actually that is a lot of me. So when we talk about hands-on, like that all happened here in my apartment. So I had a guy from OC that came and did all of the cocktail stories. I mean, I did the way I approached it, because I've done a lot, not just, you know, cooking in restaurants or creating, you know, working on concepts. Like I've done food styling and stuff for big brands and for shoots. So I kind of know how it's done. So what I did was I have all those ingredients in the drinks, and then me and the photographer kind of set it up. And then for all of the other scenarios, I put everything that I wanted to have in the brunch shot, the happy hour shot, you know, all the things that would make sense, but also showed the right array of items that would be put together. So that the storylines, you know, or the backstory was actually all me.
Wow.
Yeah.
This is really a hands-on book. Wow.
Yeah, that was a lot. It was a lot. That was crazy.
Well, I don't know if you folks are watching us on YouTube or some of the other platforms. You can see Chef's Zoom background. That's the cover. I mean, that's what you're looking at right here.
That's a brighter version of the cover. Yeah. So we did all that, and it was crazy. We did all the food in one day. It was very
one day.
Yeah. Yeah. That was our budget. So I did all the prep 3 days leading up to that. And then we shot it all in about 14 hours. And then we did about 6 or 8 hours on the cocktails. So yeah, it's crazy. That day was crazy. Like that day, whoa. I definitely needed a tequila at the end of the day.
You needed a few tequilas.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. So yeah. So thank you for noticing that. But
no,
yeah.
Oh, it's visually stunning. It really is. I mean, I looked at this, it's like, wow, after a while, you know, when you see foodie pictures, you kind of, you know, they all start to, they're like blonde
Yes.
to me. They all start to look the same to me, you know? And, but you look at these and it's like, you know, and this is a very simplistic bottle. Okay. I mean, some people don't, I think if you were to look at this bottle in the past, to me, this harkens at like an old school.
What's cool?
And I know that a lot of, I call them insultants in the liquor business, will look at this and go, oh no, we got to change the label. We got to change the bottle. You need something flashy, you need pretty. Nobody buys a foil label, you know, and that's what they do. That's what insultants do. They'll, especially if you want to get picked up by a big distributor. But yet you made this look so much, you know, when you styled this, you made it, whoever put this collage together.
Yep.
And it's like, you know, you want this bottle. It's interesting because it's not, you know, you're going against the grain when you do stuff like this. And you see this bottle and you go, oh, wow. And it's, you know, it's an old school with a modern look to it, a modern twist. And I look at these pictures and it's like, man, these are really beautiful. The whole thing is artful. I mean, this could be, and I have art books. I have art books from Mexico, as a matter of fact. And a couple of my trips, I get, you know, books that are either gifted to me or whatever. And some of the art books, the Mexican art books, are very similar to this look. And again, that was on purpose, right? This is all
everything. Yep. Everything was on purpose. And then Simmer Group that I work with, they helped with the colors and the fonts, you know, and then I had an interior layout team that helped with the layout and the placement. I mean, I knew how everything wanted to go, but they did help with, you know, putting that together. But, you know, in terms of the total nuts and bolts, that was, you know, pretty much me and a couple of photographers and, you know, really just making it look the way it does, which is, it's really, here's the thing. It's not like I worked with this big publishing company and a food stylist came in and like made my food. Like, so I guess that's the difference too. Like, it's all my food. Like, I made everything you see in the shot, every drink, I made all of it. Like, I actually made it. It's not like pretend food. It's all actually the real food, which isn't always the case. But yeah, so that's kind of interesting and unique, I think.
It's not like fake ice cream that's really
Right.
mashed potatoes or something. Yeah.
Shaving cream, exactly, which that's okay. And you need to do that for certain shots, but like this food is all like, I really made it. So it's kind of crazy.
Oh my God, these guys must have eaten so well that day.
Yeah, we had a lot of leftover.
What's your background, chef? Have you always been in the food business, or I mean, how did you come about? I know some of us have heard of you, some of us have not.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about your background.
Yeah, my story is different in that I was through high school and college, I worked in restaurants and all that stuff, server, busboy, all that stuff. But I actually ended up in technology and I owned a recruiting firm in Newport Beach, very successful, made a ton of money, built a company called America Online. Anyway, so that all happened and then the market crashed in 2000 and I was like, oh my God. And I had 2 homes and all this stuff. And I was like, wow, what am I going to do? I went back to school, did a cordon bleu program, a 1.5-year program.
Oh.
Yeah, and went into the food business as a chef, and then started a little restaurant in Manhattan Beach as the executive chef. Landed on Top Chef about 1.5 years later. Got moved to New York, spent 13 years there. Really honing my craft and learning and growing, and then came back to San Diego just 3 years ago. So it's now the dominant career. I'm actually rolling on just about 20 years I am 20 years as a professional chef now. So yeah, so it is the dominant. I did like the tech side, but it's kind of a unique story that I was there and came here. Food and stuff was always my passion. I really loved it, but I was like, you can't make money as a chef. Which PS, you can't necessarily, you have to be a little bit more wily, but yeah, it's, I grew up in a family, we didn't have TV dinners. We didn't, we did, if my parents were going out, that was like a bonus, but it was from scratch. And so I think it's something that you start with and then you can build from there. But, it's not like I was like, when I was 30, I decided I wanted to be a chef. It was always kind of maybe in my DNA, but I didn't explore it until I lost everything.
Wow. So that bubble burst really,
big, 2000.
Really
yeah.
Everything, huh?
It was a big burst, yeah, but it's okay. I rebooted and made it happen. And, I'm a hustler. That's how I made it through New York.
Kidding.
2 years in New York, like I know they say it and it may sound cliche, but no, it really takes a lot to make it in New York.
Yeah, I imagine that it's a tough, anything. I mean,
anything. Everyone wants to be the best. Everyone wants to be the best, whether it's fashion, whether it's design, whether it's writing, whether it's finance, whether it's food, whether it's barista, like everyone's there to be the best. That's what you're there for. So it's good. I mean, it helps you, you got to be on your game.
So now that you're in San Diego, what are your plans now? I mean, are you still consulting with other restaurants, or are you going to open your own restaurant?
Oh gosh, no. No.
There's no money in that either, right?
Oh no, that's a big no. But no, never, no interest in that. But definitely, again, with COVID, it's kind of squashed all my consulting. It was about 70-30. Yeah. Rolling into it, I built that into that. But I've talked to some of my agencies that I work with. Things are starting to percolate a little bit. So I'm hopeful that comes back because I really enjoy that. In the interim, I'm doing a ton of, I have 2 big clients on the East Coast, one in Hamptons during the summer and the other in Cape Cod. So I'm with them all summer. I'm actually home right now, but I just did 40 days of events and I'm going back to do 20 more days in a row of events. So it's been really hectic, but that's kind of my income for now. And so you got to do what you got to do, but I'm hoping to get more of a balance back because the consulting is my creative, and I get to be creative with these clients because they love me and they're so great. I couldn't work for people that treated me like the help, like I'm integrated with them. So I get to do my thing. I know what they like and don't like. So it's not that stoic private chef role. It's very far from that. And it's, a very unique relationship. So and
Are
I
these,
enjoy it. So
are
it's,
these events primarily wine events with,
no, they're dinner parties, dinner parties back to back, brunches, dinner parties, like the ones in Cape Cod are with like different oceanographers and scientists. The ones
wow.
at the Hamptons are my client, it's her friends and their people and other clients of hers that she brings out to the house. So it's really an array of things, but it's, boom, different themes. We're out on the boat, we're back for this. It's a lot, it's creation, but it's a lot of just logistics, and people couldn't necessarily do what I do at that when we're talking about that many days back to back.
That's a lot. That's a lot of work, man.
It's super intense. Yeah. So I've been laying off the tequila
Why?
just because I have to be so focused and feel good. And so not that I don't feel good from it, but and same with the wine, I've just been very low profile on that. And it's really helped me to power out this like 9 or 10 week cycle, plus I'm flying here and driving there. And so I've really worked on keeping
Well, when you're working, it's always different. People always ask us, how can you taste all those tequilas? Don't you get drunk? I go, no, half the time we're spitting it out.
yes,
We're
yes,
not. We use specialized glassware. We're not using just plain old rocks glasses. We have a set of tools that we use. All of us. I have like 13 tasters in the U.S. and one in the UK. And so, when you do stuff like that, even when you're teaching tequila tasting, you're working. So it's not about, I'm imbibing while you're imbibing. That's the guest's job to do that.
correct. See, and that's the thing, like, even though these clients like me and they want me to have fun, which I do, but it's like, you guys, like, you're the guest, I'm good, thank you, but I gotta stay in my lane and I gotta do my thing.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
I really,
As a matter of fact, when we're recording this, where it's at the middle of August, by the end of August, will be a group of us tasters, a group of our tasters will be in San Diego, and we're going to be judging agave spirits for the San Diego Spirits Festival, which happens in September, but the judging happens in August. And so, when nothing ups your game, like when you're in a room full of tasters and you're scoring. I mean, people's medals, sometimes people's reputations are on the line.
yes,
When you're doing stuff like that. So you don't go in there lightly, and considering we've had so many years, all of the tasters that'll be there have at least 5 years with us on Tequila Aficionado. So we've all come through the ranks, and we judge all agave spirits. So that means mezcals and raicillas and whatever else is being entered. So yeah, when people ask us that, if you've got the right tools, you don't need a whole lot of samples, and you taste it a couple of times. Yeah, you're gonna swallow a small amount of it.
yes,
Most of it you're dumping, and that's the hard part, because it's like, when you see this tequila, the Baston del Rey, you gotta dump some of that. I go, yeah, I got, I can't drink it all. I can't. And so I understand where you're coming from, because when you're working, it's like your job is to make sure everybody else is having a good time.
yes,
Primarily, I'm drinking coffee. I think that's about the one thing that I think every tequila taster's salt, anybody's worth their salt, will say that they defend their coffee much more than they would their tequila.
yeah.
And that's how I am, because
Well, it's about being professional and having a level of decorum, like, we're professionals in what we do, and like our job, like you said, their reputation relies on you being on your game and doing your best, just like mine. I've got to be on my game. I can't be buzzed or drunk and like doing dinner for 30. Like, I'm the one running the program. I might have people helping, but I'm making and doing everything. I'm very hands-on. I am not like, standing by. So it's important in any kitchen, or tasting room, like whether it's a home or, a restaurant, like you've got to be respectful.
That's kind of why I asked you. I said, if you were ever going to open your own restaurant, because some people really enjoy, obviously some people enjoy your cuisine, but they're not sure where they can get it. And so,
Well, that's why
coast at this point, right?
you can hire me anywhere in the world and I will go and make it for you. So, it's more of a personal and private experience, but, yeah, that's where it is now. But, and that's all good. Like, and I'm hopeful, like I mentioned, that the consulting comes back, because that's really fun. And it's a way of putting my food out there. I mean, definitely with some rules and regulations based on the cuisine or what the restaurant owner is looking for, but it's still me in the background.
Have you had a chance to highlight a lot of your recipes from the book in certain private events for you? I mean,
Yeah, we just did a book launch in Manhattan.
oh,
Yeah,
okay, yeah,
yeah,
that's
we
right.
did a cool book launch, which was super fun, give a lot of bites and drink samples. We did that. And then actually one of my Hamptons clients, one of the guests that was coming was like, we want to do, you know, stuff from the book. And same thing, actually my Cape Cod clients, kids as well, were like, we want to do a night with all stuff from the book. So I've totally been doing the book tour in its own way. And I'm sure that some other things are going to be coming up down the line as the book gets more traction and some, you know, probably ticketed events and such, you know, whether it's things with you guys or, you know, other platforms. So that's all something that, you know, I got the book out and so now it's out, and those are things that we'll look for toward, you know, fall and early 2023 as we get into Cinco de Mayo and, you know, some of those celebration times.
Sure. This is called the Tequila Diet. And the funny thing is that we know one or two other people who have a supposedly tequila diet, you know, book. First of all, there's no such thing as a tequila diet. So that's the beautiful part about this is that, you know, in your case, every, like you said, it was like 90% of the recipes, probably more than that,
Yeah.
requires some expression of el bastón del rey. And how this is a kind of a co-brand with them. That's actually Bastón del Rey's logo on there. Although you could probably, you know, if you can't, again, Bastón del Rey is a tough tequila to find right now because it is also ramping up and just launching. But you could probably, you know, substitute another.
Yes, and that's, you know, what has to happen. I mean, they can ship nationwide, bastondelrey.com, so you can get the product there, but yeah, it's not everywhere. So it does make it difficult. You just have to make those subs, you know, and get the best option that you can find in the different, you know, based on the varietal, and, you know, explore and do your thing. And that's all good. And as far as the book, you know, you can get it everywhere. It's actually trending. It's doing well on Amazon because the price just went down again. So I mean, it doesn't impact me because it's not much anyway, but the book is now $33 on Amazon. So that's a good thing.
It's
so
an awesome book,
you know, and that's, you can get it delivered overnight. Like it's already in the Prime thing. So that means, you know, the way their algorithms work, like it starts at the initial price, but when it starts going down, that means it's doing well because they have those margins to do that since they don't pay us. But, you know, and it's everywhere else. You can get it from me directly, a signed copy, mytequiladiet.com. You know, if you want special gifts or whatever, you can reach out to me directly, but, you know, it is everywhere out there. And the ebook is only $9.99. iBooks is the better platform. I think because they pay me better, but, I'm going to just be honest. I mean,
hey,
hello.
that's
I
what
mean,
we're all
Amazon,
about. We're all about honesty here, right?
I love Amazon and I spend a fortune on there, but they're really sticking it to me on the book. But again, it's more about passion, having fun and getting the word out there, but it's out there all over. So I look to, you know, get the word out more, and especially to your audience. You guys were one of the first teams that I reached out to before my PR team was on board. I reached out to you and Lisa, and I was like, well, hello, if anyone's going to be interested, it's these guys. So
yeah,
you know,
I mean, it's right up our alley, you know.
Exactly.
The thing is, the interesting thing is, I mentioned we had like 13 tasters throughout the US and one in the UK.
Yeah.
Most of these guys are really good in the kitchen.
Yeah.
Like Lisa's brother, he lives in San Diego. Rick, he was one of those guys that learned to try to make bread during the pandemic. And Lisa was making bread prior to that, way prior to the pandemic. And Lisa's a great cook. And I knew Rick would enjoy this book. That's why I asked specifically for him to get one of your books, because he's going to go bananas with this. He probably has already, because he cooks for, you know, for his partners. And I have another taster in Ohio who's a really big barbecue guy. Really the saint he prays to is, you know, Anthony Bourdain.
Okay.
So big Anthony Bourdain guy.
Sure.
And this guy is just, when I do tastings with him, and because where he is in Ohio tends to be a much more of a bourbon and whiskey area.
Completely.
You know? So his background is more of that. and he's been great as a taster, but he's really good teaching me about stuff that I know nothing about, because there's certain things that all these guys teach me. I learn from all of our tasters, and a lot of these guys have great palates, and they're like cooks and chefs and barbecue guys, and it's like, wow, I can't wait to. It's funny, we're all going to meet in San Diego at the end of the month. There's several of us we've never met in person.
Yeah.
We've been working online for like the last 5-7 years. But Rick, I know personally, but so it's kind of neat. Some of us are going to be together for the first time. And I know my taster in Florida is flying out, and he's a big gourmet. I mean, this guy is a founding member of the American Distilling Institute.
Oh, wow.
So he's written a couple of books like the Tequila, I think it's called the Tequila Dictionary. He's won several awards for that. I mean, this guy, he's lived in Oaxaca for a year,
Oh my God.
Yeah. Now that's what I was going to ask you. I know that this is more like Southern California Tex-Mex.
No, it's real Mexico.
Yeah.
And all the different regions, like whether it's, Oaxaca, it's definitely true Mexico,
Yeah.
Versus Tex-Mex.
Right.
Tex-Mex, yeah, and I'm not really.
Well, Tex-Mex, we
yeah,
discussed that earlier. It's a little bit different.
It's totally
even
different.
regions of Tex-Mex are different.
Exactly. Yeah, it's true Mex. But it's a blend of all the different parts of Mexico. So, but like I'm a huge Oaxaca fan. I mean, it's one of
That's what I was going to ask you. That's where I was headed. Did you spend a lot of time in Oaxaca? Because
not enough time there, but I am planning a trip back there in the spring because it's, you need some serious time on the ground. But, other places like Mexico City is great because you kind of have a melting pot there.
Yes.
So, I did a couple days research there as well. So, and that's great because you can catch a lot in one area. I mean, you've got to walk around. I mean, I would walk about 10 miles a day and mapped out different places to go. But yeah, so this is an array of different styles of Mex, with a little inspiration, like maybe one of the salsas from one of my places here in San Diego, but it's totally Mexican in terms of cultural appropriation. It's total Mex, not Tex-Mex, not Southwestern. Yes, I do have some hatch chilies thrown in, so I guess in that respect, that's because I just love those, and
I do too.
Those are maybe a little more accessible in some areas to access. So I do have a nod to those because they're just an amazing chili.
Yes. Yeah. I when, like I said, I spent 18 years in New Mexico and Albuquerque and that. And I miss, that's the one thing I miss is, this time of year, you smell roasting green chilies in front of every supermarket. You can just smell them coming at you, and it's like,
insane. And some of the best burritos are at the gas station.
Yes.
I mean, it's like such a crazy thing. And it's, I have the chills just talking about it because I still remember, those regions are amazing. And I love the cuisine, I mean, I guess, I do like green chili pork, like I think of the Colorado for that. So I do kind of talk about that, like in the story of the thing. I mean, it's Mexican, but that's a region that does a lot of green chili, like so many restaurants in Colorado, you go there and it's like the green chili pork. So, there's the true inspirations from Mexico, but there are some stories that maybe talk about versions that I've had in the States.
Well, the Southwestern versions, primarily because just that area, I mean? Now, you say you have some restaurants that you're working with in San Diego. Can you name those, or are those?
Oh, I'm not working with any right now. Just restaurants that gave me inspiration. It's my little taco shop, and I tell about it it's called Benny's. It's like next to.
Oh yeah.
It's like tied to a gas station, and their red salsa is off the charts. Like I drink it. Like I actually had one of their burritos in my freezer, so when I got home from the East Coast last night, I could eat some. So it's a must go. Oh God, the place is so good. I can't talk about it because I'm so hungry. But, so one day when I was there, I asked one of the gals, because I'm there all the time, and asked for like 50 containers. She was making the red sauce, and I was like, will you just tell me what the ingredients are? And she told me the ingredients. But I've made my own version, but I was like, and I think whenever people do that, they maybe leave something out. So I've done my best interpretation of that in the book, whether you just do it blended or cooked. But yeah, the Benny's red salsa is really one of the best I've ever had in my life.
That's the salsa to die for right there.
That is, it's
I
so good.
love it. I
I'm
love
craving
it.
it now.
I love where this is coming from. You know, it's really a heartfelt, and I knew that. I mean, the attention to detail, you know, the way the recipes are written out, how the simple, easy to follow directions. You know, I looked at this like, yeah, I could this, you know, if you guys, if there are men out there, women who are looking to maybe get more involved in the kitchen, pick this up, because, you know, you, like you said, you're not looking at something that's a little too complicated to make. You want to get your feet wet, and, you know,
Yeah,
just
I mean, you can start with simple things like make a salsa, do the elote, you know, there are simple things, the ceviche, there's things that you can start with and then build on that. So that's
yeah,
how I look at it. You know, you can get more complicated as you move along. And another thing that's important about the book is I don't tell you what to put in the empanada. Okay. So like, if you want to do the chicken tinga, you can use that. You want to use the barbacoa beef, you're plant-based. You want to put one of the plant-based dishes. So that's really, I've kept things open. I've told you how to make, whether it's the dough for that or the masa for the tamale pie, but I don't tell you that it has to be like whatever protein. So I leave a lot of customization open to the end user, which I think is kind of cool and unique as well. So
yes, yeah, well, because then they own it. You know,
yes,
then your readers own that recipe, and
yep.
it becomes theirs. You know, and I think that the cocktails are the same way. You know, you get to riff off of these a little bit, and, you know, then maybe you want to be a mixologist. You know, one of my tasters in Arizona started off as a sous chef, but he's now also a mixologist. So he's very much similar to where he's just, you know, I've done tastings with him where he'll take whatever we're tasting with tequila or mezcal, and he's got some ingredients at home, and he says, I can make a cocktail right now. So we do another video of him making a custom cocktail with whatever we're tasting at the moment. And he's just like that. He's just very creative and very, you know, very hands-on. And so he'd go bananas with stuff like this. He might even add to some of these recipes. Totally. But he's such a, you know, like I said, I learned from all these guys, because I never know, you know, they have such a wide and varied background. They either work in liquor business, the guy in Ohio works in media, you know, Rick works for the government. So I can't even tell you what he does because you'll probably have to kill me. Right. But, you know, so it's really it's an every person's book. And that's what I love about it is, you know, like I said, I'm not much in the kitchen. I'm really not. I should. I really am. At my age, I should learn how to cook. You know, besides egg dishes. I think in fact, I remember the reason that I got involved with making puerco pibil was because I watched Robert Rodriguez's videos on how to, you know, he had these additional videos on he was the director of Once Upon a Time in Mexico.
Yeah, I know Robert Rodriguez. Yeah,
and he's got these recipes, and he has a wonderful philosophy. He says, even if you don't cook, learn to make 5 dishes really well, and you'll always eat well. Yeah, and it makes sense to me because, you know, so he's got his 5 favorite dishes, and he asks whoever guest comes in, he says he's got a little menu, you know, on at his home. And he says, which one of these would you like? And he makes them.
That's cool.
And I thought to myself, you know, that this is the kind of thing where you could do that. You could riff off of that and learn to make, you know, probably more than 5 or 6 good ones. Because some of these are really, I look at these and go, I could do this. Yeah, it may not look as pretty. It probably won't look as beautiful as this. But, you know, as long as it tastes good, I'm okay with that. As long as nobody gets sick at the end, you know.
Yeah, you're good.
You're good. Where before we let you go, Chef, what do you want to see? Where do you want to see this book? Or what are your wishes and plans for people when they pick up this book, and you know, what do you want for them to experience?
You know, whether it's, you know, if it's for them or a gift for someone that they know that loves Mexican food or Mexico or tequila, like I just want people to have fun and explore and kind of create their own journey. So I don't have, again, kind of like I don't tell people what to eat or drink together. It's like it's just a fun book, and there's fun stories, there's little anecdotes. My personality is obviously interwoven throughout the book. Since I did write it. But it's fun, it's great stories, and it's a great collection, like I said, of, just showing the breadth of Mexican cuisine. And, it is simple, but there is method and technique. And there is more than just rice and beans to Mexican food, and their sauces and just everything they do. There's a lot to explore. So just buy it for you or a friend and just have fun with it. That's really the whole point. Yeah, no other hidden agenda.
The tequila diet, folks, if go to Amazon right now, search it, it'll pop right up for you. The tequila diet, Chef Dave Martin. Chef, thank you so much for being with us. I look forward to, maybe collabs a little bit later on, that probably 2023 or whatever. I know that you and Lisa have been, Lisa, our managing partner, have been in discussions, and I really do. I want to see everybody have, this really belongs in everybody's cookbook library. If you're going to have, and I've got a tequila library right up here behind me. It's right there with all my other stuff. This is the only cooking book I have, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
And really, it's the only one that I probably need. I mean, I'm not gonna, again, I'm not much in the kitchen, but I bet if I go with a fish Veracruz, that I can manage that recipe and
you can.
certainly successful at it. So folks, that's our take on for Open Bar. It's called the Tequila Diet. Okay, Chef Dave Martin. Go get it. Get a copy for yourself, and we do it with tequila too. Get a bottle for yourself, and get one to give away. Look for El Bastón del Rey also. This Blanco is a no joke old school Blanco, folks. And I know a lot of the old school guys, the old dogs, the old guard that I'm familiar with. They love that foil label on a bottle. They look for the stuff like this, and this is really, it not only looks like an old school tequila, but it tastes like one too. And it's only going to add, some great flavors to your recipes. Chef, thank you so much for being with us and for taking time during your day. I know you've been really busy and you're probably jet lagged too.
A little bit, but it's all good. It's all good. But no, thank you for having me. And you can follow mytequiladiet.com. Also on all platforms on Insta, we're My Tequila Diet and Chef Dave Martin, and you can find us everywhere.
Yeah, follow him on his Instagram for those of you younger and everything you do is now Instagram or Facebook. Just like us, we're on every platform. So it's Chef Dave. Do it, get it. The holidays are coming. OND, October, November, December. If you got a tequila fiend on your Christmas list, you want to get not only a nice bottle, okay, but you got a nice book as well. I think you should do both. Personally, can't go wrong. But that's us here on Open Bar. Chef Dave Martin, thank you so much for being with us and letting us invade your space.
Thank you so much.
And again, folks, go get the book, The Tequila Diet. You've been watching and listening to Open Bar here on Tequila Aficionado Media, all of our channels and networks. Please subscribe if you're watching us on YouTube. Hit the notification bell. Give us a like. It does help us with the algorithm, because Chef Dave, everything operates on the algorithm.
Sure does.
There's no such thing as serendipity and synchronicity. It's all run by the algorithm now, okay? So hit that notification bell. Give us a like, and then leave us a comment. Tell us what your favorite, if you have this book, tell us what your favorite recipe is. We read all of our comments anyway. We're very much hands-on like Chef Dave is, so I'll answer a lot of those comments myself. And whatever you do, again, folks, tomar sabiamente, sip wisely, and keep watching Tequila Aficionado. Thank you.